right, welcome back. It is the Built by Vitality podcast. As always, I am Steve Pinkerton, surrounded by the world's worst two employees, Philip Lewis and Nate Agnew.
Man, this is like his fifth appearance.
I'm sure you're asking yourself, gosh, why is Nate on the show again? And the best part about this, I like getting – what's great about Nate is he's quick on his feet. I don't like rehearsed answers out of Nate. So I have not told Nate what the show is about.
I don't really know why I'm here either.
I have not told you
like
what the show is about. But what I did say before we started, I said, when I say what we're talking about, it will make perfect sense why it's not just me and you having this conversation.
Because I don't know anything about it.
Yes.
Because you and Nate can talk about it.
A little bit, and then you can give us the
I'll give you
the
my
view of like
view.
You have a very important role in this because I'm using someone like you as the whole reason this is upside down. Not you personally, but you're gonna.
That's what you just said.
No, I said you're gonna represent
that person.
Yeah, but it's not actually you.
Yeah, you're representative.
You're representing everything evil that we're gonna talk about, but don't take that the wrong way.
I'm not.
On today's show, we are going to discuss single sport athletes versus multi-sport athletes and why we put the emphasis of single sport specialization on these young kids. And it's happening. Someone's like, well, that's not happening. Shuddy, it's happening. Okay, 100%. Do you agree?
No clue.
Exactly. Did you see that happening?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And
what's a single sport athlete compared to a multi-sport person?
Good question. Good question. A single sport athlete is an athlete that plays one single sport.
Only. See, when you first said that, I thought
the single part.
Well, when you first, this is where I got confused here. That's why I'm on here. When you said that, the first thing that came to mind was, what sport can you play without a team versus the ones you play with a team is how I was taking it.
Okay.
The old ping pong route.
This
is like golf would be in the single person. So you don't have a team.
Yep.
I was thinking solo-ish
Yep.
versus like I'm on a team.
Okay.
And I think what just happened there was the culmination of exactly why Nate's sitting across from me at this table.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just let's lay it out here first. So when I was a kid, which I get it, I'm old. I'm 41 years old. Nate is 27 years old. He's always 14 years old to me. Like always.
He's never known my age.
Someone asked me one day, they're like,
How
old's Nate? Oh, he's 22 or 23, and Nate's like, I'm 26. I'm like, jeez Louise. But anyway, so even when Nate is coming up, he's starting to see this as a specialization focus where when I was in high school, man, you played every sport. That was just the way it was. When track season opened up, you were running track. When football season was going, you were playing football. When basketball season was going, you were playing basketball. Mm-hmm. And now what you're seeing is these athletes, these young kids, are picking a sport, which we're going to get into in a little bit, which I think is absolutely asinine, at a super young age, and then their parents are, basically borderline, abusing these kids, and by making them do all of this single sport focus and forgetting the fact that sports is supposed to be
fun.
Yeah. You play a sport to have fun.
Yeah. Not to get upset, and like have a bad afternoon or day if you lose. It's just
now don't get me wrong. As I sit here, I'm one of the most competitive people on the planet to a fault. But as a kid, I loved sports. I loved it. I loved the team aspect of it. I loved everything about it.
You hang out with your friends and play something you like.
Not only that, and we're going to talk about that, but it's how you make friends. It's how people learn how to socialize.
Different groups of people.
Yes.
They're not the same.
Backgrounds.
Sport.
Yes. So we'll talk about the pros and cons, and then we'll kind of dive into where I see this is such a giant mistake, and I don't know that you can reverse this because at the high school level, coaches, administrators, athletic directors, they're going to all fall into this trap because it's just that's what the parents are driving the bus on this. Let's talk about the pros of being a single sport athlete from the viewpoint of you will take. Since I'm not saying that you're not super.
No, I got you.
But what do you think the pros would be if you had a child and you wanted them to play one sport? Why would you choose one sport? Why would you only choose one sport?
Why would the kid, or why would I? Just
why
want
would
them
you? Because really, here's what's happening.
It doesn't matter what the kid wants, really.
Really?
Anymore, unfortunately.
Sure, you're going to ask them, but at the end of the day, what do you think? I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know,
like, man, I should have did that when I was younger. I'm gonna make sure they do this.
Or their kid comes back and says, "Man, I had fun playing baseball this season." Oh, really? Well, let's get you in all these different club sport teams, whatever it might be, and you'll play year round. Well, what happens? Now, all of a sudden, the kid starts getting decent at baseball because he's got a baseball bat in his hand
all the time,
9 months out of the year. Well, of course you're going to start to get pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But that I think is one of the people think, well, if I specialize, it'll build confidence. If they build confidence, they'll be a better athlete in that sport.
If you only had one sport, if I grew up just playing baseball all the way up to college or whatever, and that's all I know, all I did. My parents took me everywhere. I played all year round. That's all my friends did. That's all I watched. That was my focus. I'm like you said, I'm gonna be really good at baseball.
Well,
there's no way around
relatively.
it. Compared to somebody that
you're gonna be really good at
played baseball, and then they went to football, then they went to basketball. Maybe that person ain't going to be as good at baseball.
This is exactly. I love you. This is.
That's a good
I
one.
love you.
That's
I
they
love
focused
you.
on it.
I love you. This
you
is
just
exactly.
set the ball on the tee, and now we can.
Yeah, that's exactly why parents make this grave mistake when it comes to sports.
Because they make them pick one?
Because they think that exact
No.
process. Now, what do you think about that?
As far as single versus.
Yeah, as far as him saying, man, if I just focus on one sport, I'll be way better than if I focused on multiple things. And my brain's going all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, I think anybody initially would be like, if I can do one thing long enough, like you said, I should be relatively good at it. And that's probably the case. But it's like the same thing we use in here, constantly varied. You wake up tomorrow's going to be completely different than it is today in every aspect. You might be the same as you go to school or you go to work, but outside of that, everything's going to change. It's really no different in sports. If I play basketball, so I played basketball majority of my younger life, that's great, and I can focus on that and do all that. But I'd be lying saying that cross-country didn't help, saying that baseball didn't help. Like hand-eye coordination in baseball, you can't tell me that doesn't go over to basketball. Now, it's a completely different sport. There will people be out there that are like, no, it doesn't make any sense. No, it makes complete sense. The more varied you can get, I mean, you're not going to be able to spend the time, like you said, at that one direct sport. But from the ages of, let's call it 6 to 16, are you really hurting yourself by playing more sports? Like, I just don't. Now, I get it. If you're a 4 or 5 star recruit as a sophomore or junior, fine. Play your sport and do your thing.
Let's look at it like jiu-jitsu. I start jiu-jitsu when I'm 6, and I do it from 6 to 16, and I do it every day, all day. And then you start at 6, you do jiu-jitsu, start the same time as me, but instead of doing it all day, every day like I'm doing, you take 3 of those days a week and you go do taekwondo. And then we compete in the sport of jiu-jitsu. I'm probably going to beat you because you were doing something else and I was focused on jiu-jitsu.
If you're still doing jiu-jitsu 10 years later.
Yes, if I still want to do it.
Because here's the issue. And I love Philip because I had something right. It was right on the old tip of my tongue, and then he comes in with the jiu-jitsu thing. But I would say that you don't have the ability to be that good because you're not going to be well-rounded. You're taking – and if you're a 5-star recruit, right, and you're a single-sport 5-star recruit as a sophomore or freshman, here's the thing. You probably have the ability to go play another sport and be a 5-star recruit.
Well.
So what if you chose the wrong one? What if you were pigeonholed because, you know what, Nate's kid looks at Nate, and Nate's like, man, I loved basketball. So he puts a basketball in his hand, and the kid picks it up, and he's amazing. Well, I bet you he'd be amazing at football, too, if you put a football in his hand and let him get out there and play. Because if you're a 5-star recruit, it's not so much a skill set level that I think we're looking at. It's an athletic ability level at this stage.
Yeah, I agree.
And now you're taking these kids and saying, well, you better choose a sport. Well, a kid doesn't know what other sports exist. And the problem that you run into, and when I look at the cons of this, is you've got these kids that they're going to always be good at the one sport that they play. Not great. Maybe they're great in their parents' eyes. Everyone is a 5-star blue chipper in their parents' eyes. But you know what cross country did for you? You know what these other sports did for you? It taught you what it was like to not be good at a sport. You know, if I'm constantly playing the only thing that I know, and I'm never really bad at it, I'm pretty much better than most of the people on my team, then I'm constantly in this situation where I don't understand what it's like to not be good, to have to be a good teammate. And I'll use this as a example. The pressure that's on those single sport athletes. For example, Reagan, we go to Atlanta. My dad flies in this huge volleyball tournament, and Reagan's like nervous because my dad's going to be there. And she's like, well, this is volleyball is my sport. I have to be able to do well. I said, no, what do you mean? Who cares? You think Grandpa's going to be like, oh man, Ray, that was terrible.
Yeah, you terrible at this.
But when you're playing the sport that you've chosen, and that's a single sport, you put this pressure on yourself. It doesn't become fun anymore. It now becomes like, I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to do all these things perfect because this is my sport. And I give this example. I was running track, and I was terrible at track. But my football coach, he was one of the most fun coaches I've ever had, Coach Hamilton. He was a track coach, young guy. Now I look back, I bet you he was 32 or 33 when we were in high school, so a young guy. And he was funny, and man, he made fun of people. It was great. And he said, hey, let's instead of taking the summer off or taking the season off, run track with me. I'll put you on like the 400, the 800. You run some relays and just stay in shape. It'll be great for football and basketball. I said, okay. So I go out there, hated it, but was great conditioning. We've got a state champion 800-meter runner. You've heard this story before. I don't think you have. And his name's Andy Lixie, and he is legit. Went to Michigan State. I think he went to the Olympic trials. 800-meter guy. I think he was a 152 guy, 151. He was stupid fast. I was like a 207 guy, which we go out and run an 800 right now, you ain't sniffing 207.
Heck no, I'm probably getting 138, something like that.
So, I mean, I wasn't like embarrassingly slow. I was just not a competitive runner. So we go to the state meet. I don't even know how this happens, but again, in the 90s, like this is how sports weren't so serious. We go there, and we go down south. We're up north in northern Michigan. We go down south, and we get to this meet, and Andy had hurt his foot, so he was out. He wasn't going to run. It was his senior year, so I was a junior, and Coach Hamilton said, "Hey, let's mess with some people. I'm gonna pencil you in as Andy. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to run the first lap. 800-meter run is 2 laps around the track. I want you to run the first lap like it's a 400 open. Now, as hard as you can, and we'll see how many people we can drag with you because everybody's coming to see Andy." So he writes it in there, and I remember walking up to the line, and I was kind of nervous because I knew what the second lap was going to do to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I could hear a couple guys talking like, man, he's a lot taller than I thought, because Andy Licks is maybe like 5'10", 5'11", maybe even shorter than that. And I'm 6'5" and a half, I got the track shorts that are hiked up all the way, whole thighs are showing, And I'm getting through, I'm doing the whole like little routine. I can see it for a little bit. It was kind of fun because people were so nice to me because they thought I was this amazing
ride that
runner,
wave for a little bit.
So I was just living it up, asking me where I'm going to school. I was like, I'm going to Michigan State, no big deal. And so the gun goes off, and I'm off. 400-meter sprint, as hard as I can go.
Oh God!
And the crazy part is Andy's first lap is I could barely keep up with him. If I was running a 400, I'd probably be a second or two ahead of him if I was running a 400 and he was running 800. That's how fast he was. And I am hauling. And I can picture the whole thing. And the crowd's going crazy. I come up to the end of the first lap and my legs start getting like super full of lactic acid. Like all that adrenaline is kind of like gone now. And I start like baby giraffe, I get to the line, I'm way out in front. And I can see Coach Hamilton, and he's clapping and laughing, and it is the greatest thing. And I think to myself as I pass, I'm like, all I got to do is manage one more lap. Maybe I can do this. At the same time, I thought that two guys passed me like I was legit going the opposite direction. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is about to get really bad. So everybody passes me. And I'm the last one coming through. Everyone's finished. And who's waiting at the finish line? Coach Hamilton. He comes back, gives me a high five. He said, that was the awesomest thing I've ever seen in my life.
God.
But my point to that whole story was that no one's having fun anymore. Like everyone takes themselves so serious. That would never happen because no one would ever be okay with like, oh yeah, okay, coach, I'll embarrass myself. But it didn't even matter. Like that wasn't my sport. It was just something. I got to meet some really cool people and hang out with them, and it was a different group. And that's the part that's missing when you play these single sport, where it's always the same group, it's always the same type of, because it's different people play different sports, different personalities. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what gives me the biggest heartburn is these kids sports are not as fun as they used to be. Like Reagan comes home sometimes and she's like, man, practice wasn't very fun. And I can't wrap my head around that because I loved practice.
You can't wait to get there.
Man,
and that's the thing too, is like, once again, for me, basketball, as soon as basketball is done, all you're thinking about is baseball season. Mm-hmm. That's all you thought about, because basketball goes right into baseball. It's fall to spring, and that's all. You still play but I couldn't play enough sport. I was like, I could play 10. Like I wanted to do as much as I could. Now you can only fit so much in, but yeah, I agree. Things are way different, and because the fact that they're this different, it almost starts to make sense. Like Reagan's tournament, look how many teams and people were there, and that's a serious high-level competition. I doubt very many girls there like, yep, I just play volleyball just for fun. Like that, you got thousands of 13-year-old girls
10,
already
000.
saying, "Oh man, I'm volleyball all in," and you have to be if you want to be that good. At this point, since everybody's all in, you have to go all in. Almost.
Until the coaches, and this is interesting. I read some articles on Dabo Sweeney and Urban Meyer and their recruiting board. They make it a priority to find multi-sport athletes. Like one of their criteria is their goal is to get multi-sport athletes. And one of the reasons, and I thought I had this written down, is it teaches kids how to lose and how to win. Every tournament I've been to, and we've talked about this over previous podcasts, and you get these kids that just don't know how to lose yet, and they look at losing as in like this, it's never something I have to learn how to do. You absolutely have to. And the reason that they don't know how to do it is because they've never played another sport where they were able to just have fun with it and say, you know what, gosh, I don't like losing, but I get it. Like we're not the better team, and that's okay. And it also teaches people how to win, because when I am the last person to finish in track and field, or the last person or I rode the bench in football for my freshman and sophomore year. I got to feel that. I got to understand from a different perspective of what those other people on my team felt like when it was basketball season and I was playing the whole game and that was my sport. You treat people differently. It's like being a waiter. When you're a waiter, you treat people later on in life differently because you understand, you can empathize with their situation. You get these kids now, all they care about is themselves. It's very, very difficult. When things now look, when you're winning, everyone's the best teammate ever. But it's very, very difficult to teach a kid when they're going through adversity how important it is to be a good teammate. How important it is for body language, how important it is to be encouraging, how important it is to be there for those other teammates.
In the lows of the lows and the highs of the highs. I mean, there's nothing like working 6 months with 11 other guys as hard as you can, getting to a certain point, it's a game-winning shot, and you miss it.
Yep.
There's no feeling like that. There's also no feeling like if you hit it.
Yep.
So, and how you react and act in both of those circumstances, and it's not the same basketball to baseball to football to soccer. It's different.
Yep.
So, like you're saying, as many of those as you can touch on.
Yep.
I have a buddy of mine that every time we would partner up and play, you ever played spike ball?
Yeah.
And he was a multi-sport athlete, so I think he can handle those winnings and losings pretty well. But for some reason, every time we lose, he'd be so negative and have a bad day.
Do you think it was because –
I don't remember who it was.
Do you think it was because his teammate wasn't
His teammate was more fun.
in the sport?
I think his teammate just wanted to have fun, move a little bit. And when we would lose, man, he was an irritable person.
They are. Well, listen, sports are about fun, but it's also about you want to win.
You want to win too.
No one goes in wanting to lose.
What did
Exactly.
Kobe say? There ain't no I in team.
But there's an I in. What was it?
There's an M and an E.
There's an M and an E. Yeah, he said M and E in that thing.
So here's another good stat I'll give you. 70% of current NFL players were multi-sport athletes. 70%. Even more impressive. 2017 draft. 30 of 32 of the first-round picks, multi-sport athletes.
Wow.
30 of 32.
Very interesting.
But no one's talking about that. No one's out there saying, hey, guys, we need to play 2 sports. We need to play multiple sports.
Look at the best athletes of all time. I mean,
Bo
in my
Jackson.
opinion, it's Jordan, and then right behind that, it's Bo Jackson. I mean, you got a list of these best athletes ever.
The quarterback for the Cardinals.
Kyler Murray. I mean,
crazy.
Russell Wilson. You could keep Tom Brady.
Who do you got? Hit me.
I don't know, man.
Michael.
There's so
you were gonna
many.
say Michael Jordan. I tell you.
The guy on the Gatorade bottle.
It's Paul George.
That guy.
The golfer too.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But what you're also going to get with this, and I see it, you see, I remember playing basketball, and there was never a time, and I think you can say the same thing, there was never a time where I dreaded a game. There was never a time when I couldn't wait to get to practice. I couldn't wait to put in the work. But there was also, when the season was over, like you said, we still played. We still played a lot. But it wasn't the focus. And guess what that kept you from doing? It kept you from getting burnt out.
Yeah.
Now, I can guarantee I take the number of shots that Nate put up in his career up until he graduated high school, and these kids now are getting that same number before they even get in high school. Guaranteed. They're getting that number. And what's happening is it's no longer fun for them. It's turning it into a job. It's legit turning it into, I have to do it because, whether mom and dad come out and say it or not, they're putting the pressure on them, saying, maybe they're talking, oh, hey, we should look at colleges, we should do this. And what they're doing is they're setting this expectation without even having to say it of what they expect their kid to do. And that kid is like, okay, well, gosh, I guess I really got to keep playing because, dad loves what I'm doing. And it's just too bad. And what these parents need to understand, I was walking around, I sent the video of 190 some courts in Atlanta, 10,000 girls. Women's volleyball, well, let me just say this. 7% of high school athletes will make it to the next level in college. Of those, so that 7%, only 2% of that 7% is going to D1 schools. So 2% of high school athletes are going to D1 school.
That's crazy.
Now, I went to a Division III school. I played football and basketball. I wasn't good at either of them. But I didn't get paid. I loved playing, but there was no financial benefit for me to go play 2 sports. None.
No.
None. Okay, but I played, and it kept me out of trouble probably. These parents need to understand. Then you look at women's volleyball. There's 438,000 high school women's volleyball players in the country. It's the second highest sport behind basketball. Okay? 1.2% will go on to play at Division I. 1.2. So
it's a lot of people.
Well, like
a lot of people. How?
Like overall,
there's a lot of people playing the game of volleyball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's still.
But
small.
1.2%
out of 100. That's a lot.
1.2% out of 432,000.
Yeah.
Are going to play Division I volleyball.
No, I'm saying the 432,000 is a lot.
Big.
The 1% is.
It's not a lot.
Right.
So you're saying I'm walking around Atlanta, 1 in 100. Okay,
Yeah.
that's one kid per every 5 courts is going to play Division I volleyball, and the way that these parents compose themselves or conduct themselves is absolutely one of the most embarrassing things. It's like, you ever watch something on TV and it has nothing to do with you, but you find yourself embarrassed? Mm-hmm. You feel that way because of what's happening on TV?
Yeah.
I felt that way walking through and listening to the nonsense that these idiots were yelling at their kids. And it was embarrassing me. Like, I felt myself like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's so like, and that's me and you are very similar. The fact that we both agree no one's more competitive. No one thinks either one's more competitive. So you would think you're still out there invested. Like, you care just as much as everybody
100%.
else. And so do I, but it's like, and I've cleaned it up. I used to get a little angry, a lot better now. And now I look at it and I'm like, man, just enjoy it. And yeah, frustration will come and highs and lows, but it's not worth me standing up and yelling at my 13-year-old. And I'm not a parent. I'm not judging anybody.
Different.
But I don't. It's
I
crazy.
Like lots on the line. If only one's going out of each court or whatever you're talking about.
They don't know that, though. They don't even realize that. They think everyone's going.
I'm saying if I knew that, I probably would be a little aggressive.
No, I'd rip your throat out.
I'm just kidding. No, I wouldn't.
But it's a very uncomfortable feeling.
That's crazy if you think about yelling at your kid in front of other parents, other kids.
And here's the thing. I'm not saying, and this is not coming from the fact that I think that I know more than those parents about competing, but I absolutely do. I'm not going to say that to them. But 100% I do. And someone should tell, their kid should just tell them, hey, my dad would never, he came to every game, my mom came to every game, never once, well, my dad yelled a lot, but only supportive things. Like he never yelled, like he was never
good
mad.
Job.
Yeah.
He was always yelling, like he would say like really embarrassing things, but it was all encouraging. And it would always be when there's nobody else talking. Like it was not like I just did something cool and it was like dead quiet after a timeout, and my dad would be like, all right, Stefanski, let's go. And I'm like, what did he just say to me? Like, and my teammates were like, oh, yeah big guys up in the stands.
Oh.
But I couldn't imagine if he was like constantly yelling at me to do this or yelling at me to do that or be more aggressive or.
We got the pressure from your coach, your teammates, the game in general, and then now you got your parents out there yelling at you.
The last thing you need to hear is your parents yelling at you. And these kids need to tell them, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm really glad that you came. Sit down, shut up, and let me play the game and have fun.
Yeah.
And my coach will make whatever corrections, whatever adjustments that I'm going to make. And if you think you can do so much better, then those parents should apply to be coaches and go coach a team. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they just need to sit down and shut their mouth. And it literally ruins the experience. It ruins my experience, and I guarantee you it ruins a kid's experience. And what happens? How many years can that kid hear about what they did wrong, what they can do to improve on the way home from every game, or why don't you try harder? Why don't you care much? How many years before you say, you know what, sports aren't as fun as everybody thought they were? Nate said sports are fun. They're not fun at all for
terrible.
me. I really dread going, and I don't like playing in front of people. Why do kids not like standing up in front of big crowds? They're afraid of embarrassing themselves. Well, what do you think happens when they're getting yelled at by all these parents? What does that turn into? It's just, and I think what we certainly will have to do is, I wish there was another home tournament, because you guys need to be a part of this. You guys need to come, because right now I'm kind of, one-man wolf pack talking about this, but it would blow your mind. Like, whatever you're thinking right now, it's 10 times worse. Yeah. Whatever I'm explaining, I can't put it into words how bad it is. You need to see it with your own eyes. And the only thing worse than that is the people that just are so clueless to it. And so that's what I think would fix some of this, if the parents would say, you know what, Johnny, we're going to try another sport. But here's the problem. To get Reagan into lacrosse, she's got to miss volleyball games. She's got to miss lacrosse games, because the way these seasons are set up, they're not conducive to multi-sport athletes. Yeah. So it's not just – the parents are the crux of it, but then, the coaches are also – they make it very difficult to try and balance.
The format of it makes it, even when I was doing it, the football team, like we had basically the football team tried out for the basketball team. It was 3 weeks. We were practiced for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's 3 weeks in. We got like 5 guys.
Yep.
But that's what the downside of it is that it truly is such a fun thing, and it's an experience that we got to, take advantage of, and it does look like that's being slighted and starting to go in a more negative way, that it's not that fun anymore. And when it stops being fun, just like anything else, you're going to stop doing it.
If you had a kid that had a favorite sport, say it was football, and you think they should be playing other sports, multi-sport athlete, do you think, but their main one they really enjoy is football, do you think they should be smart about the other ones they pick as it would relate to their favorite one? Or do you think it doesn't matter? Like, if I play football, I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm going to do, golf. I don't think that's going to help you as much in football as track or cross country would when it's back to football season.
You saying for injury reasons?
No, for carrying over. I don't think golf's going to carry over to football to make me a better football player.
No,
I think you went to play golf and I went to go run track, when we get back on the football field, it helped me more than you playing golf. So if that's my favorite sport, do you think I should be smart on what other ones I choose to play if I'm going to do a different sport?
I think that's a good question. I would say absolutely not. I would disagree 100%, only because, again, it's having the experience of, if you want to use golf as an analogy, just use golf. Golf is a very tedious sport. Yeah. I don't play golf. I can't hit lasers like Nate can. But do you know the type of hand-eye coordination it probably takes to learn golf? Mm-hmm. Do you know the type of discipline that it must take to do the same swing over and over again, the attention to detail, and then to have the ability to focus, and all eyes are on you, and you're trying to,
rock that thing,
lay up on a.
Well, I think that 100% agree with that with any of the sports, because if I said track and I said, hey, I'm going to be jumping hurdles, hand-eye coordination, explosiveness, jumping, I just think it would transition better into football.
I think it's just more, But
the experiences, I think it's with any sport, like with anything. You're going to have to dial it in, and there's going to be all that in each one.
I mean, there's experiences, but at the end of the day, I think it's like, do what you want to do.
Yeah, what you enjoy. Yeah.
I ran cross country to help me. That was part of it. That was like some of my excuse. Like, it'll help me with basketball. You're running so much, stuff like that. But it was with my cousins. It was with my boys. Like, it was
fun.
I just did what I wanted to do and what sport was fun to me.
It wasn't forced on you.
No, it just came natural to pick whatever I wanted to do, and if that's what I wanted to do, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And most importantly, no matter what it is, your mind is no longer focused on
Tunnel
your
vision.
primary sport.
Yeah.
So you can just forget about it and you come back to it. It's like
It's fresh
taking
again.
2-3 months off the gym because of an injury. When Derek comes back, when his biceps healed up,
Oh, yeah.
he's going to have a new lease on life, man.
Yeah.
He will be
He's gonna be
motivated.
excited, ready
he will
to
be
get back.
hungry. He'll have a different level of excitement when he walks in the gym. Same thing goes. You take a basketball out of my hands for a week, and I'm like, man, yeah. If I like drugs, I imagine it's like that. I would have to. Like, I have to have it. You know.
I couldn't wait for baseball.
Yeah.
Once baseball got, I was so excited because you still want to play basketball, but you've been doing it for 6 months. You're like, I don't know, pick up a bat and ball. It's just different. Yeah. And I knew that wasn't my main sport.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is
ready
just
for
so
it.
much fun. You get better at
Instead
it.
of indoor, you're outdoor.
It's
There's
great.
America's favorite pastime.
Enjoy it.
You know, I stepped out of my comfort zone and played little league baseball, and I really wanted to get into it, but I wasn't super coordinated. I was a little bit too tall. Had a lot of length on it. You know, I was a lefty.
Bat lefty.
Yeah, not a lot of people did that at the time. So
No.
I was already getting catcalled
The
before I
old
even
Phil
got there. You're on the
Mickelson.
wrong side. And I walked up there. I was with the Angels, and had the uniform. It was white. Looked good, sharp. Didn't fit me because I was too tall. Step up in the plate, and I just crowded the plate. I didn't know. No one told me.
No one, yeah.
And I took a fastball right to the old rib cage.
Man, straight down.
I went
huh?
home. I told my dad. I said, Dad, I don't want to play baseball anymore. We hung it up. Never played it again.
I did that at a softball game. Hit me right in the old IT band.
Yeah.
They were like, whoa. I said, I'm good. I'm good.
Softball game.
Yeah, just
Where
like
they lob it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not quite the same.
Well, no, I'm
So you
saying,
see what happens?
Wait a
Like,
minute.
I get hit
No,
by a
no, no,
70
no.
mile an hour.
No, wait. Not a
I get-
lob. They do this
The
lob,
underhand.
the
Yeah.
pitch.
I'm getting hit by a doggone
Yeah.
minor league pitch in the rib cage, and he's playing
You
slow
let me
pitch
finish. You let me
men's
finish.
softball.
You didn't
co-ed
let me.
softball
you,
at that with
you
aluminum
didn't let
bats.
me finish.
Yeah, okay.
The big
It's,
softball.
There's
things like
two
this
parts
big.
to this.
Oh, part 2.
I get hit in the IT band with a softball. About halfway to first, I'm like, man, that stung a little bit. Whatever. When I played baseball, I got hit in the exact same spot, and I went down, son, halfway to first. There was no recovery.
You just
Halfway to
stopped.
first, straight down, and I didn't want to play anymore either. I was scared of a ball ever since then.
Yeah,
You
well.
get on the plate, as soon as old boy winds up, you're like, I'm good.
That's
Back
crazy
on
to
up.
me.
After getting hit,
I got hit so many times.
That's
Yeah, I
terrible
was just a little too
feeling.
young, I guess. I don't know. But
and I mean,
digress.
hit like in high school when you got guys
God,
going
dude.
to the majors.
I'm not talking about T-ball and it falls off the tee.
well,
hurts.
I don't know. I kind of picture you doing the T-ball thing.
We were Texas Rangers, 17-0. I still got my trophy.
Did you play?
Yeah, that's good, Nate.
He was the
I didn't know if you're getting the water.
the
or-
bat boy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Throw
yeah.
the bat to
That's
me.
fine. So I'll see y'all at the mat Friday.
So, in closing here, I think that how does it change? You know, I look at there's
It
a lot of
won't.
things I look at like right now in the world, and I like how do we, you know, there's a lot of things I don't understand if they're ever going to get back to normal, but this is one of those that I just don't know how you can rectify this, because parents are going to continue to be overbearing. They're going to continue to think they know everything about whatever it is their kid's playing. I mean, just watching lacrosse is annoying. Like,
I think it get worse.
hearing people yell, and I just want to be like, they're 100 yards away. They can't hear you, and they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
They're 100% engaged in trying to get a ball into a stick that makes no sense. Like, they don't hear you. And if they did hear you, they're not going to listen to you because they got their coach yelling on the other sideline.
And
So
their
if
teammates yelling at them on the
at
field.
best, you're just confusing the hell out of them. And I just don't know. I don't know. I'll say it. I'm going to say it. It makes about as much sense
I'm
as
gonna bleep it
someone driving in their car by themselves with double masked. I'm going to say it, okay? I'm sorry. Those are two things that just don't make sense to me. But
I mean,
I just don't get it. So I don't know that you can change that. I don't know how you can. So how do you change it, Nate? Not
man.
the driving by yourself and double mask like that.
Yeah,
That-
right. There's no changing that.
we'll have to delete that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm stick with it. I feel that way, okay? That's how I feel.
I know why they do it.
Please tell me.
It makes me mad too. God, it drives me nuts, and I had to research it.
You researched?
What do you mean?
I researched it. I asked around. I Googled it, YouTubed it to see why people were driving around with masks on
By
and
themselves.
nobody's in the car.
What do they say?
I thought COVID was going to come in the old AC, take them out. I didn't know what it was. Some people were saying the people's car was sanitized, whatever. They put it on, get in their car because they're on their way to pick up like their elderly grandma to take them to an appointment, and they didn't want to contaminate the air, and that's the only reason you might see it.
I saw a guy smoking a cigarette the other day.
I had too. I saw a guy walking on the street with his mask half off, and he's taking a cigarette walk and get some fresh air.
Don't get me going. Okay, so
sorry,
get back on track.
How do you fix it? Man, I mean, I think you hit on a couple points. The parents for sure, but I guess how, that is the question. Somehow there has to be
parents. It's an education process.
It's that. Yeah. I think the school, not necessarily school systems, but athletic programs, the formats of things could probably shorten. But then again, it was kind of what I was going back to saying earlier. The more this happens, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, "There's no way I could go back and play right now. I'm not talented enough. It's simple as that. The talent just gets higher and higher and higher. And me watching these games now, it is a different world. Mm-hmm. And basketball, you watch the NBA, it is so much different than it was 20 years ago, 5 years ago. So as the talent just keeps increasing, that certainly doesn't help the problem.
If one parent's yelling and screaming at their kid, it almost, without the other parents really knowing it that do the same thing, it almost, they one-up them.
I know.
It gets louder and louder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this feeds into a completely separate conversation. But when you start to put this crazy pressure on these kids, now you start having these practices that are going until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and that opens up a completely different can of worms. And now you're taking these kids, and I am the last one to be talking about education because I barely graduated, but you're taking these kids that should be focusing on school. And they're staying up till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. They're run down. Then they're studying or whatever. They're getting 5 hours of sleep, and they're getting up and doing this over and over and over again. They're eating terrible.
Most of those, when games or practice or whatever's over, if it's late, most families just run through a drive-through, right? And they just go home, whatever.
But here's the thing. I'm watching how this plays out in Atlanta. You got 10,000 people there. And the PM wave is half of those people, so 5,000 girls. When you're leaving, it's 9:30, 9:45 at night, and those teams are going straight to an ice cream parlor or whatever else. So they're getting a bunch of ice cream, which is fine. They're kids. But guess what happens? They do that Friday. They do that Saturday. Guess what happens on Sunday? They feel they play like crap. They're tired. They're lethargic. They're slow. They can't react. And guess what happens? Now, what does that do? That turns around. Now, parents are like, "You don't want to play. Yeah. Oh, you can't hustle. You can't do this." They can't do it because of what you did. You let them run around the hotel until 1 o'clock in the morning eating Fruit Loops and ice cream cones. What do you think they're going to do?
Long time.
And they're like, "I don't know why they're so tired."
Well, Johnny's just, he's been working hard.
He just doesn't want it. You just don't want it as bad as the other team. No.
You're not getting ice cream today.
Yeah. So it's just, man, you look at this and you say, it's just not that hard to see. And it's frustrating to me how few people see it. And the thing is, I'm not that smart. So if I'm not that smart and I don't see it, I see it, like, how in the world, what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Yeah.
So this is a tough one for me because I got 4 more years left of this, and I love watching Reagan play volleyball. I love watching her play lacrosse. There's nothing I love more than that. I really, like Nate said, you're not going to find people more competitive than us. But I'll never yell at my kid. And I'm more competitive, and I understand sports more than 99% of those people sitting in those stands. I will never do that, ever. I did feel bad, though, the other day. So Reagan, if you get you know much about lacrosse?
Nah, I don't really.
Apparently, if you get a yellow card, you gotta go take a knee, like at center, like off, like almost like a hockey, like you're in the penalty box.
Yeah.
And I guess it is if you intentionally extend and check somebody. So Reagan
check somebody
and got a yellow card.
I love it.
And they made her go sit down. This is like 2 weeks ago. And she came home, and Jess had called me before. She said, oh, yeah, Reagan's so excited. She thinks you're going to pay her for this.
For checking somebody?
For getting a yellow card. And she said, yeah, she said you told her that you'd pay her for these yellow cards. And legitimately, like, I started worrying to myself, like, I need to get my blood checked or something.
Did you say that to
I've
her?
never said that. I didn't even know that a yellow card existed. I've never seen it before. So Reagan comes home, and she's like, Dad, you're never going to believe it. I got a yellow card. I said, Ray,
Like it was a good thing.
I'm not mad, but I never told you anything that I was going to pay you to do this. I'm trying to, like, tell her my thought process. I would never reward you for hurting your team because obviously you need to look at this and say, you're one man down now. It's one thing if you get like a warning and they're like, oh, yeah.
You check the person
But
and they're
you're
out.
sitting on the sidelines and it's not like a power play. They're out for the entire 2 minutes. They can score 10 goals in that 2 minutes. You're not coming back in. So I said, Reagan, if I knew that existed, I would never be like super pumped about it. I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you're aggressive. And she was so upset with me. She's like, I can't believe it. I was so excited to come home and tell you, and you don't even now you're mad at me. I said, I'm not mad at you. I just never said that. She said, yes, you did. So I was like literally pulling up cameras in my house, trying to figure out when I had this conversation with her that I have no recollection of. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I get 10 hours of sleep at night. Like what? I don't forget things.
He might just be.
So it's interesting. Like it's just funny that, yeah. But I'm the last person that's gonna, competitively start yelling and running up the sidelines, and it's just it makes me feel so weird. Again, when you hear other people do it, I couldn't imagine what Reagan would think if I was the one, because I got a loud voice. Like I'll yell louder than anybody. Any of those idiots out there. Are you kidding me? If you want to make this competition, I'll yell louder. Okay, I promise. But it would demoralize Reagan. She would
be so embarrassed.
mortified. Mortified.
She's going to check you.
Yeah. So anyway, this is something that I feel pretty strongly about, and I just don't know. I don't know how you get it out there. I don't know how you make people understand that we're certainly going in the wrong direction. But you got guys like J.J. Watt who are huge proponents of this. They talk about it all the time about how kids do not specialize. You need to go play multiple sports.
Yeah.
If you had more of these professional athletes and more coaches like Sweeney and Urban Meyer vocalizing this, but you know what? Maybe they don't want to share.
Probably want to, because that's a metric wouldn't even have thought of ever, probably.
But I bet you could measure it based on, you get your kids, and it's 35 kids that were multi-sport athletes and a number of kids that weren't. And I bet you it's not hard to see who's more coachable, who's a better teammate, who handles it better. And they're probably thinking to themselves, geez, I hope this doesn't get out, because I don't want people. I want to be the one recruiting these multi-sport athletes, because they can teach you, man. You got what you got in high school. You can get up a bunch of shots and you can fix some things. But the reality is, if you go play in college, someone's going to tweak your game a little bit. They're going to tweak the way your release is. They're going to tweak the way you set up and catch off of a screen. Something's going to change. What you can't change is your personality. You can't change your coachability. You can't change the intangibles that you are either have them or you don't.
Right.
And I think that the athletic ability is what you can control. And you were a really good basketball player because you were athletic. Here's the last thing I'll leave you with. When you talk to people and you do different sports and you mess around, would you say it's easy to tell who's played more sports in their life?
Yeah, that's how I've always defined an athlete. Is not the fastest or the strongest or whatever. To me, it's can you shoot a basketball and look like you know what you're doing? Can you throw a baseball, hit a baseball, throw a football, catch a football, kick a soccer ball? Can you perform these, swing a golf club, things like that? How well-rounded are you as an athlete? And you have to talk about multiple sports when you're talking about well-rounded. It's the only way you can do it. You can't just say one sport. You're a great athlete because this. Because trust me, there's plenty of great basketball players that are terrible baseball players. I mean, they can't even throw, and vice versa, and it goes all the way around. But
they could pick it up. They could learn it. They could figure it out very quickly.
Very quickly. Just, hey, a couple of tosses, a couple of this, and boom, they would
Because
get
if you've played football, obviously – you could play baseball. You can, there's so many different things that you can do. But then you see these guys that didn't play any sports, which is okay. I'm not saying you got to play a sport, but I do think that you should play a sport for just social interaction. But then you see people that you throw them a football and you're like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
You serious, Clark? You're doing that to me right now? I'm not talking about you.
No, that's good.
Or it's
like y'all on that anyway.
Or they do something like they try and hit a volleyball. Like, I never played volleyball, but I'll be doggone if I'm not going to get out there and try and figure it out in a short period of time. And I won't be as good as anybody. I won't be that good, but I'm not going to suck.
Yeah, you can.
You know what I mean? And I think that's so important because it just gives you this foundation. Just like it is with fitness. Like, if I squat, deadlift, and I press, I'm going to have a pretty good foundation of weightlifting. If I don't have that and I only press and I never squat and never deadlift, well, guess what? I'm probably not going to be able to do thrusters very well. Right. Sure as heck not going to be able to do a squat clean. If I did do a squat clean, I'd probably fall backwards and the bar would fall on top.
That's good.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know. I didn't want to bring it up.
No, it's fine. It's fine. All right. One of my buddies, we used to bench every Tuesday, and for some reason, like, I don't know, he just doesn't bench anymore, like shoulder issues, wrist, like, I don't know.
Can I tell you why?
Do you know this guy?
I do.
Okay.
We got so good at benching, we were specializing in the bench. It was no longer fun for me because we did
I didn't say you.
We did it for 7 months.
I was talking about Derek Pegram.
7 months. Every Tuesday, we'd go down there and we'd do crazy stuff. And we got to the point where we became so good at it, we started to get overuse injuries. So we stopped doing it. And that's a perfect example.
I'll name one of the workouts. I was like, what did we do that day? It was 100 bench, something like 100 bench for time. Every time you broke, you had a 10 cal ski, arms only, and then you kicked the other guy in the stomach, and then you go the next.
Yeah, turned it. Yeah. I think
I
like
finished 58-minute workout.
I think I finished. I went upstairs and I ate. I took a shower and came back down, and you and Derek was still working.
Oh, my God. That was the worst workout.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, we rambled a little bit, but if you are a parent, the 2 takeaways: don't yell at your kids while they're playing, and let them play multiple sports. And when it looks like they're not having fun, they're not having fun. It's not an optical illusion. They are not having fun. That is something you need to fix. Every sport should be fun for them. If it's not, they need to stop playing it.
It's true.
All right?
It's true.
Anything to add? Anything?
No, I'm good.
Does it make sense why you were on the show?
Yeah.
Doesn't.
I appreciate it.
Doesn't at all.
I know. Guys, Nate Agnew, Philip Lewis. This is Built by Vitality Podcast. We'll catch you next time.